Hey everyone, welcome to the Coach Catalyst podcast. This show is about helping you grow as a coach by standing on the shoulders of giants. Each show, you get a different mentor in your ear. The early motivations, the successes, the failures, the tools, the tricks, and the insight into where the industry is going. All of it so you can make your own dent in the world. Remember, success leaves clues. Now, without further ado, on to the show.
What is up, my friend, and welcome to the final episode of Season 3 of the Coach Catalyst podcast. I'm your host, Trevor Whitwer. Now, we did save a really good episode to be the final episode, and I had the pleasure of speaking with the founder of Nutritional Coaching Institute, Jason Phillips. Now, we talk through the entire journey of NCI from no people at all or no clients or coaches at all to a $10 million plus business, and how he went from idea in an industry that was fairly crowded, the nutrition certification industry, to how they executed some things they did differently, and how they were ultimately able to carve out their space and win in this really crowded space. So we get into a lot of different pieces, things like how Jason had to grow throughout his journey with NCI and things he's still struggling with right now. And so if you're an entrepreneur, if you're building a business, this is definitely going to be an episode that hits home for you. So I'll catch you on the flip side with Jason, founder of Nutritional Coaching Institute. Jason, welcome to the Coach Catalyst podcast.
What's up, man? I appreciate you rescheduling with me 100 times to make this happen.
Hey, it's all good. It's all good. It's going to be worth it. I already know that. So, I mean, really why we're here is we're talking about the company that you founded, right? So Nutritional Coaching Institute. And so if you had to give the quick 1 minute, 2 minute pitch on what Nutritional Coaching Institute is to the person that doesn't know about NCI, give me that first right off the bat.
Yeah. So I think it's common knowledge that there's plenty of nutritional certifications in existence in the world, as there is personal trainer certifications. And so when we decided we were going to build a certification, we had to be different. But you can't differentiate science. Like, proper science is proper science, right? So like metabolism hasn't evolved, physiology hasn't evolved, like biology hasn't evolved. Maybe our level of understanding of it has evolved. But the biggest problem I saw was that there was practitioners in the space with all of the knowledge, but the inability to use that knowledge to effectively create consistent results. And so NCI is the first ever certification that bridges the gap from knowledge to results. And of course, that bridge is application. So NCI is the first and only application-based nutritional certification in the world.
So take me back to kind of an idea, right? Because at the time, there was plenty of probably nutritional certifications that were out in the world from all of the kind of the major certifying bodies and some other kind of large companies that were doing this. And so was it you just kind of looking at the industry and just being like, hey, there doesn't seem to be anyone that's actually talking about application, or was there a different aha moment about, hey, we need to go do this thing?
Yeah, I would love to say I'm super smart. And then I looked at the industry and was like, man, there's this big gap, but I'm not that intelligent. And so I was actually in a room. I was at John Romanello's mastermind in Santa Monica, California, and Craig Ballantyne was there. And John and Craig kind of pulled me aside, and they were like, dude, I was doing $1 million as a coach. So it's not like I was hurting in any way.
Right.
But they were like, you're leaving so much on the table, from an impact perspective. My shirt says I woke up and chose impact. I'm always the impact person. They're like, you're leaving impact on the table. There's coaches in the world that are not creating results like you, and there's coaches in the world that haven't built a business like you. And so why are you leaving that on the table? And they're like, you need to figure that out. And I was like, are you talking about a certification? And they're like, yes. And I was like, there's 1 million certifications. I'm like, how can I rewrite science? And I'll never forget, if you know Craig Ballantyne, he looked at me with that Craig Ballantyne look, and he was like, figure it out. And that was it. That was his only words of advice. He's like, figure it out. And I was like, shit, man. So this was in Santa Monica. I was living in Scottsdale at the time. So I had to drive from Santa Monica to Scottsdale, and it's about a 6-hour drive. And I'll never forget, about halfway through, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, man, I don't need to rewrite science. I don't need to rewrite, biology or physiology. I'm the best in the world at application. I've built these processes to bridge that gap, and that's where everyone's failing. And so I was so clear on it, man. At the end of that drive, I pulled into my house. I got out of the car. I didn't even unpack my stuff. I went to my desk in my office and I wrote out the outline. I was like, this is going to be it, right? Like chapter 1, overview, chapter 2, protein, right? And I went all the way into day 1, science, day 2, application, and all the application chapters. Bro, that outline is still the outline today, 7 years later. I was so vivid. I had the picture. I knew what needed to be achieved. And it was just this is it. So, shout out to John and Craig. They definitely were the first influence. Thank God for a 6-hour lonely drive.
Right.
One of my biggest takeaway is
The biggest takeaways is
The one specific takeaway.
biggest takeaway for me was probably content, showing up more online with more of my personality, more education, growing my personal brand as well as my company's brand.
making sure that you're marketing to the right people, not just trying to be everything to all people.
Is the social media marketing aspect. How do you go about creating content not only for your audience, but also for an audience that you don't have yet?
Is how passionate everybody is and how everybody is willing to help in this industry. They made me realize that I can also be there. I can be in that space. It's not that hard.
Is to reach out, many people I met here, and talk to them because the wealth of knowledge is so fantastic that it's just really exciting to be able to have these contacts to be able to talk to you.
Something that rang in my head as the day went on was letting everyone you know how well you know them.
This event could change the trajectory of our whole business the next 12 months, definitely the next 90 days. So that alone is worth coming.
You have to own the communication with your client. So making sure that you're their go-to reference and building a network.
Is how do you help your clients continue to stay uncomfortable and grow?
So, going from ideation and an outline to kind of building the curriculum to actually maybe selling the first one, how did you go from, actually, let's even just start with the creation process. How did you go about creating this certification? Was it just spending hours and hours writing, or did you bring in a team? How did you go about that?
Yeah. So let me give you the next part of the story. I haven't ever told this publicly. I've told it in some small rooms, so I'll give you the dirt. So I created this outline in November, early December of 2016. I was in a long-term relationship. We broke up, and I started dating somebody. And so then it was April or May, and yes, I got engaged very quickly, but I was dating who would become my wife, and she wanted this engagement ring that was more than I wanted to take out of savings. And it was 40 grand. And I was like, well, how could I sell 40 grand today? And obviously
right.
You're not going to sell coaching services for 40K in a day. So I was like, all right, I have this outline of the cert. A facility in Chicago had already said they would host me anytime. So I reached out to them and I was like, hey guys, how does July sound? And they're like, great. And I'm like, okay, lock these dates in. And so I was sick and I'm like, I need to make a post on Facebook. I need to make 40 grand. Let's talk about the cert. And I thought maybe 5-10 people would be good conversion. So I wrote pretty good copy. And dude, I had 160 responses, in a matter of hours. And I was like, holy shit. I'm like, people really want this. And I went to my assistant and I was like, hey, make $1,000 PayPal link, send it to everybody. And the first 40 people that do it, they're in. We sold it in 6 hours.
And this was just this is a post on Facebook?
Yeah, this is a post on Facebook.
Okay.
Right? All let me give you the important reminders. All I had was an outline.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't written shit yet. And so I'm like, all right, well, let's add 2 more dates. Austin, Texas, Washington, D.C. Let's try those places. We just built dates and we're we'll figure out the details later. Dude, I sold out 80 more spots in the next 24 hours. I had 120 grand of certification sold, and I did not yet have a certification written. But I knew I had from April until July to write a certification. And so I know I am best at creating content in, in a very like early morning, beautiful setting, right? Like my favorite setting is like put me on a balcony overlooking the water at 5 a.m. where it's dark and I can watch the sunrise. And so I took my family to Laguna Beach. I sat my ass on the balcony of a hotel room at the Mirage. And over the course of the week, I wrote the majority of it. At the time, Travis Zipper was a coach that worked for me. And I said, hey man, like, do you want to be involved in this? And he's like, absolutely, I do. And I'm like, cool, here's the chapters that I still need to write. Do you want to start working on some of these outlines and I'll put the copy together? He's like, absolutely. And so over the next, month and a half, he would feed me the info. I would do like very scientific stuff. And then I would all of the application stuff was really just written from like experience in the trenches. And then obviously it's been evolved to interview other coaches and stuff like that. But I basically had about 4 months, right? Like May, June, July, 3 months. I had 3 months to write it. And like, quite honestly, we were putting the finishing touches on about 4 days before the first delivery. We were stuffing binders the night before. Like I'll never forget FedEx brought me like all the, the certs, like 3-hole punch. They fucked up the alignment on the 3-hole punching. They were printing more certs at like 1 a.m. We're like stuffing binders at 2 a.m. And I showed up and I was like, all right, well, here we go. And man, it was magical. I'm not going to lie. Like that first weekend, I knew we had something really, really special. And that second day when we did the application, I was like, this is a strong statement, but I stand by it. I'm like, we fundamentally just changed the game. Like we really changed the nutritional game. And, obviously it's been proven to be successful, which is really cool. But that was it. Like there was, again, I'm not that intelligent, man. Like I think that my superpower is A, I think I'll outwork anybody, but B, I think I'm willing to fail faster than anybody. Like I'm not afraid of failure. I know it's going to happen. Every really successful person has several failures in their book. And so it's like, how quickly can you fail? And I just put myself in situations where, it might happen, it might not, but off you go, like learn from it and keep going.
Do you think you having that kind of like date where it's like, hey, people are counting on you, they've paid, you got to show up to this place and execute on this thing was a big part in being able to like get it done in such a short period of time?
Absolutely. I had been sitting on the idea of a certification for 18 to 20 months. In fact, there's old episodes of me on Barbell Shrugged. I think like the first one I went on where I said something like, yeah, I'm going to write a certification. Dude, I didn't even launch it for like 2.5 more years. Like I am the biggest procrastinator in the world. I'm the self-proclaimed, but I believe also like truth. I'm the laziest person in the world too. So having that date, like it's pretty important.
Right. So what do you think the difference was? Was it the application? What resonated with the market, the industry so well?
And the application. Because I can tell you, we have data, we have, sorry, I got a dog coming up on my lap. You can probably hear him. But we have data, we have, testimonials of people that have come from other certifications that literally said, this is the missing link. This is what I should have learned on day one. Right. And it's like, if only we had those things, we'd be more successful. So it definitely was that, because I don't know, you have a training background. You can only learn the science of training so many times. It's not that interesting to learn new science. And the people that are researchers that are interested in continuing to learn new science, they're really not interested in certification. So.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And so did you have a fairly large following like on Facebook? Because you had been in the industry, that kind of stuff?
No, dude. I was like a nobody, bro. I made my first $1 million with less than 1,500 followers. I think at like the peak of my coaching, I think like when I sold my coaching in 2020, I had less than 15,000 followers. So I think 2016, I probably had less than 5,000 followers. But I had helped a lot of people. I had served a lot of people. At the peak of my coaching career, one-on-one, I was working with 167 people. That means my company was working with, I think we were getting like 1,000 new customers a year. I think it's like, we had just changed a lot of lives. And I think that people that had their lives changed were now willing to want to pay it forward and help other people. And that's really what NCI is about. That's what our mission is about, right? Like we say, we have like the 1 billion person mission. It's about the volume of lives change. And I feel like, there's so many people, like when you've been greatly affected by something, you want to pay it forward. And I think that was always like where we led as a coaching company, man, is I genuinely just wanted to help.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite thing about Coach Catalyst.
One of the things I love most about Coach Catalyst.
There are lots of things I love about Coach Catalyst.
And the reason why I love Coach Catalyst is that
the accountability off the back of that
is simplicity.
The support is amazing.
It allows me to give so much of me to my clients.
It's the drip feeding of content.
I can schedule lessons for my clients in advance.
Game changer for freeing up time.
It gives me my time back.
It's so simple and so easy.
Hi, I'm Kane, the founder of Coach Catalyst, the #1 accountability and communication software on the market today. We help coaches just like you keep their clients accountable and scale their business beyond what they've ever been able to do before. So if that sounds like something you want, let's take a look at how we can help. So Coach Catalyst was built on the 4 C's of coaching. Those are content, communication, community, and consistency. So for content, you need to go beyond just workouts and deliver the whole experience for the client so they get the results they deserve. For communication, you need to own your communication. If you don't own the communication, you don't own the client. So make sure you stop texting clients and use a centralized platform. For communities, get off of Facebook groups and take ownership over your social group with Coach Catalyst communities. And for consistency, the foundation of all results for clients, we took the best-selling book Atomic Habits and built all these fundamentals right within our app that's going to guarantee to get your clients the best results possible. If you want to start using the 4 C's with your clients, content, connection, community, and consistency, make sure you run over to Coach Catalyst and start a free trial today.
So when we look at kind of those early days, you were off to like a good start, right? You had, you were doing these in-person certs. Was it always the plan to do this in-person thing? Because most certs are just kind of like, hey, I get a textbook. I like read the textbook. I take the test. I take the quizzes, whatever. I get the piece of paper at the end of it. So was that kind of another differentiator with, hey, we're going to go in person, we're going to go in the gyms, we're going to do a weekend and really teach for a weekend?
The differentiator was the way that we tested. So at the end of ours, you have to go through 90-day case studies and show proficiency in the art of being a coach versus just taking a multiple choice test. The live delivery was never meant to be a differentiator. I think we just really enjoyed it. Like, I wouldn't say that was like a big thing that, you know what I mean?
But I mean, eventually you guys moved away from it, right? So you moved away from going live. Was it just kind of like this is an unsustainable type of approach, or what made you go away from it?
It wasn't sustenance as much as it was demand. I think that accessibility is just difficult in person. I mean, when you think about, we were doing pretty cool locations, like, think about going to Scottsdale, right?
Right.
And like go to Scottsdale, you pay realistically Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, 3 nights hotel, right? Probably $300-$400 a night. You pay for your airfare there, and you pay for all your food. You're probably $2,500, $3,000 deep. Plus you paid, $1,000 plus for a cert. And it's almost a $5,000 bill for a certification. And that's a lot. COVID happened and we started doing it via Zoom. People love that. Like our weekend certs via Zoom, dude. We were doing them like once a month. We were packing Zoom rooms, 100 plus people, and now we've got the self-study, but even there's a lot of demand for self-study, but we index heavily in customer support right now. And we have a minimum that we try to get 80% of people to be engaged with every product whenever they're in the program. Getting to that number is very difficult in a self-study program. Our graduation rate in self-study is about 53%, I believe. But then we introduced a cohort-driven model where if you buy the materials, you can go through an instructor-led 16-week course where each week we do a lesson, right? And like the instructor teaches you the application of it. They help you with your clients through it. And our graduation rate there is 98%. And so we know that, we're a connection-based model company. We teach connection-based model. It's massive. Like connection is everything.
So when did you make the shift to doing the kind of cohort model? When did you see that as being like, hey, this is different and this is going to really help people be successful?
About a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And that was when we brought Andrew Garrison in as our VP of education. He's now president of NCI as of 2 weeks ago. And so, that was his thing. Like I give him full credit there. It was not me. But he has created an epic delivery model that is absolutely crushing for people.
Right. So, I mean, let's kind of go back and let's look at you were off to a good start. What was the first major hurdle that you feel like you needed to overcome from a business standpoint?
Marketing. So our first fiscal year, we did $1.2 million. And that was purely on the number of people that I had positively affected in their lives. Like literally, dude, like some referrals, but like just my hot network. The next year, we only did $700K. And so we lost $500,000 in top line revenue in year 2. And it's because I didn't know how to market. I didn't even understand the importance of marketing. And, I just thought I could hire a salesperson, they'd do some outbound dialing and we'd figure it out, but that didn't work. I had to figure that out. I had to figure out, how do I get this in front of people? And honestly, at the time I was still coaching. So I had a coaching company and I had the certification company. And I was like, that was a hurdle for me. And so obviously I made the decision in 2020, our third fiscal year, that I was going to sell the coaching company, which presented a whole other host of problems. But it was that decision, though, that I think was really pivotal, because in 2020, I was able to push. I really had kind of figured out marketing in 2019. And all things combined, I think 2020 we did close to 3 million. And then I think that, 2021 we did 7.5 million, 2022 we did 15 million. So, it just kept growing. But yeah, I think that was the first thing, man, was marketing. Like I really had to learn marketing.
Right.
And it's, you can't just sell yourself. You can't just be like, hey, buy Jason Phillips. You're not buying me anymore, right? You're buying a course. And so that was completely different for me. I had never done anything like that.
What was the first, from a marketing standpoint, the first thing that hit for you? Like, what was the first thing that got some traction, or was it just a collection of a bunch of different things that you guys were starting to do?
I think it was a couple of things. One was one of the earliest lessons I learned was just the importance of community, the importance of owned media. What we're recording now, I think it was yesterday that Instagram and Facebook went down. And so obviously you can't be reliant on someone else's platform. So I think that having owned media was really important, having an email list. And then I think also really refining our offer. So we started with the level 1 cert, and then we had the hormone and the mindset and the gut health, and we had so many different options. And so we actually started bundling things, and we started consolidating offers. And when we consolidated offers, things got easier. And so we actually started really understanding the pains of our client. And so, I started understanding points of access to me. I started understanding marketing, or market positioning, and then messaging. And then it was the distribution of the right message with the right offer at the right time. And so I always knew who I needed to be in front of. Probably the best move I made was in 2019. I reached out to Adam from Mind Pump in November of 2019 and just told him I need to get this in front of more eyeballs. And we agreed to advertise on Mind Pump in 2020. And I knew that it was a significant investment for me at the time. But I knew that getting in front of their eyeballs would be super helpful. And so that was a big thing for me.
I'd recommend this to any coaches or even clinicians out there that are looking to build a business around a product that they already really believe in.
As a brand new user, just being sold on the streamline of being able to put everything in a centralized location, anyone that is just fumbling with Google Sheets to Facebook messages, group messaging, text messaging.
For anybody that wants to be able to coach their clients, many times you use different tools and resources, and when you're trying to manage that, even on a Google Sheet or on regular technology, you're limited on duplicating the data over and over.
I think if I'm gonna, recommend the app for anyone, it's gonna be myself. If I want to take my business to the next level, so definitely looking to do that in the near future here. Everybody can really benefit from it. I use it in the rehab sphere, but I also utilize it in the training thing. You can do the same thing with nutrition, right? There's so many uses for it.
For everybody, coaches, clinicians, anyone that kind of works in the industry, chiros, PTs, trainers.
This is one simple solution that we can create to all of our users and all our clients.
So if you want to create a way to systematize your business so you can scale, I have not seen a better product for that.
So getting, that opportunity, and really, paying to play to an extent,
Yes.
right? So did you see from that a major change in the trajectory of NCI from that kind of exposure?
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, at that same time, I kind of that was when I built my first ever marketing framework. And so it was a combination of I knew that the exposure to the right audience, and then I knew how to convert the right audience, those two things combined. I'll give you an example. In January of 2020 was our first ever Mind Pump ad. On the back of that, I ran a very targeted offer, and we did over 120 grand in 7 days. Which, that was a lot of money for us at the time. And so, it was, I knew I'd kind of figured it out. And so everything I do today is always reverse engineered from the opportunity. And I had figured out how to get traffic. I'd figured out how to get people to an offer, and I figured out how to close them. And, I've honestly never looked back. That's why we've seen such growth. Obviously the last 15 months, I've kind of changed courses a little bit. But definitely that was the big catalyst for me.
Mm-hmm. Who was what position was the first hire that you made inside of NCI to kind of give yourself a little bit of breathing room? Do you remember? Because you didn't have any co-founders, right? It was pretty much just you.
Travis was he wrote the course with me. But I've always run the show, and, I'm trying to think, man. I had, from 2021, I'm trying to think, cause 2020, the person didn't exist. I think maybe it was my assistant. I don't have a good one on the NCI side, and it's cloudy for me because NCI and my nutrition coaching company were basically one company at the time. So it's hard to say what really propelled NCI. I will say towards the end of 2020, I brought in somebody that effectively became my my right hand. And so I guess you could categorize him as a COO, and we had a fantastic run together. I think he definitely made things easier for me and allowed me to be myself more, and allowed me to really be the visionary, and he kind of became the integrator. So I think that was a catalyst for massive growth. But that was it.
Is that where you feel your kind of superpower is? Is it in that kind of visionary, kind of get things started, get them off the ground, and then
100%. I am not an integrator in any way. I'm 100% visionary through and through. I think that's my superpower. If you ever consult with me, I'll openly tell you, I was not born to do the work for you, but I believe when it comes to vision of this industry, I can count on one hand that I think people that I think have the vision that I do. And 98% of my industry predictions have come to fruition. There's probably only like one where I feel like I missed, but, and I guess that was like, I would love to say like there's a skill or something that I studied or anything, but like, honestly, I just think that's been my gift. Like that's what I was born with. And so when I can conceptualize and have people do, like actually I was reading a post by Onyx Singhal this morning, and he talks about being a CEO and delegation. He says that most CEOs delegate tasks. They don't delegate outcomes. And I think that was really profound because, I've always innately delegated outcomes because I'm not good at tasks. And so when I can be 100% visionary and I can explain the outcomes necessary to achieve that, and I have people that can achieve those outcomes, I have a really good team.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really been finding those people.
Right. And so, I mean, to kind of play devil's advocate to an extent, you have a level of being somewhat of an integrator because you got this thing off the ground, right? And you got this thing built and you're out there teaching it and doing that kind of stuff. And so is it just not being able to continue that? And was that just kind of a role that you felt like was necessary in order to make this thing happen? And then you could kind of get out of the way and allow someone else to come in and kind of take it to the next level?
I mean, it's interesting because like if you were to come in and you were to audit present day operations, I would actually say I'm circling back to a lot of those things. I would say I'm actually circling back to like a lot of the early days of speed, because I think one of my biggest frustrations as a visionary is lack of speed. It's like I see things and I'm like, why don't you see them? Why can't you just create? But I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, to be honest, man. I think that I know innately what needs to happen to achieve outcomes. I can't always paint the clear picture as to how, because sometimes it's so intuitive to me that I just do it. I think it's also my biggest flaw is like, if you were to ask some of my team, like when I'm like, hey, can you get this done? And they're like, yeah, how? And then I'm just like, well, get out of my way and I'll do it. That's like a massive flaw. But I also like speed and I'm not afraid of hard work. And so, I think like the $10 million a year inflection point is the one where you really find out how well can you, how well can you like delegate? How well can you communicate? How well can you outsource? Because I think a lot of people can get to $10 million annually and not have a lot of great systems and not have a lot of great leaderships. But I think that to get north of 10 million, you have to be able to do that effectively. And, some of that is like the ability to trust other people. Some of that is, the ability to find talent. Some of that's the ability to lead that talent so that they feel inspired and they want to work. And I think you've heard me say, like, I feel like I'm the worst at all of those things. Like, I feel like I suck at those. And so like, I've had to work on that. When people are like, what are you doing for business development? I'm like, I'm just trying to be better because, when you start as a solopreneur, it's a very selfish journey. I've burned relationships. I've isolated from family at times because I'm just not afraid to be selfish and grind my face off. And, now I have a 6-year-old daughter and I've never wanted to get better at being better than I do now because I just love every minute with her. And I know that I can't spend the time with her and watch my business grow if I can't be the effective CEO I need to be. And so that's been a big shift, man, in like the last 18 months, but also like massive area of growth. Like I've had to index hard in that.
Honestly, the favorite part of the event?
My favorite part was...
Favorite part of the event was? My favorite part of the event has to be the people. Everybody from the presenters to the attendees have such an energy and a passion for what they do.
Seeing my coach Justin Harris speak and also Stan Efferding, that was awesome.
I'm loving the connections, the opportunity to speak with a lot of the other speakers, with the audience. I'm really enjoying the setup of the event because it's really keeping a lot of open doors for you to just speak to everybody.
Seeing how the
VPs, high-level business owners, and people who are where I want to be, who I embody, is seeing how they think, how they operate.
Inspiring, getting inspired by industry leaders, taking things that I can apply immediately in my business.
I think outside of the amazing speakers that you guys had, is that everybody's pretty much like out there.
My favorite part of the event was really just meeting with other professionals, people that are outside of my circle, really great people, and learning kind of who they are and how they can make their clients better and make the industry better.
I really liked what Coach Cav had to say about the environment always wins. I think he used an analogy about the fish aren't sick, the water's dirty. Creating the right environment, whether it's on your team or with specifically working with your clients, creating the right environment is always the key to success.
So, I mean, how do you go about growing in that area? Are there people that you're studying? Are there books that you're reading? Are there mentors that you're kind of leaning on? Like, how do you improve in that? Or is it just like seeing your mistakes and trying to not make them again and then just kind of growing as a person based upon real world experience?
I think it's a combination of both. I think you have to be willing to be real and raw and vulnerable with yourself. I think you have to be willing to speak to your own shortcomings, like truthfully, and instead of justifying them and covering them up. I think for a long time, I was really good at justifying the things I sucked at with my success, right? And I'm like, well, that's okay because look at how successful I am. When in reality, it wasn't okay. And so I think that was a big step. And then I think it's finding people to like learn from. So I think it's kind of like it's not either or, it's both. But I think that you can try to learn from anybody you want, but unless you're open about what needs to change and you're prepared to make the change, nobody can change you. Nobody can help you change. And I think I had just hit a point where I was ready to change. Like I was ready to be a dad. I was ready to be a CEO. Like I was ready to be a human again. I felt like for a lot of my like work career, I was just like a work robot. Like wake up, get coffee, go to work, you know? And I also don't want to vilify that. I think people that hear this are like, oh my God, that's so bad. Like, I mean, I made it. Like I got there, you know, like I don't think it's that bad. I think that some people are so anti hard work that they'll never do what's necessary to get there. I think it's a delicate dance. I'm not advocating hustle culture, but I'm also not going to shit on hustle culture like a lot of people want to. I think that there's a point in every entrepreneur's career where you have to hustle. I think you got to learn how to grind. You got to learn to get scrappy. I don't know any entrepreneur that hasn't been down to like their last dollar in their bank account. You know, you got to learn. Like you got to fight. And you know, then you can have all the balance and everything that comes with it. But to this day, I mean, you know, March 6th, 2024, it's like I probably still work a little too hard. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
So when you're going back and looking at now that you're, you know, many years into NCI, right? When you're looking back on those early days, is there anything that where you're like, knowing what I know now, I would have done that differently, or I would have done that faster? Were there any key areas that you can think of?
I should have charged a recurring revenue for everybody that's ever come into NCI. I should have built a membership to remain certified. I always said I wouldn't do CEUs. I always said I wouldn't do any of those things. And I stand by that. I've never done it. But I should have absolutely built a central component for people to have to be a member of for their certification to be valid. I've left maybe $100 million on the table in valuation by not doing that.
Because as the nature of a certification, it's a one-time purchase, and then it's potentially just selling other specialty areas, and so it's continuing to be this one time.
More LTV on the customer, right. So like I've always been able to build, you know, subsequent offers, but yeah.
So I mean, is there anyone that's doing it like that? Are there any certification bodies that really have a true recurring revenue backend? Like I don't think there are.
There's not. And I can tell you, one of our biggest competitors during COVID tried to institute CEUs after previously saying they wouldn't, and they got destroyed.
Right.
So you can't go back on your word.
Right.
And I can just tell you, like, the lift of a membership model today of going back to all the 7,000 people that have come through our program would be so difficult. And it's like, do I just want to start now? I don't know. Like, I don't know the answer to that. I know that, like, if private equity buys me, which they will at some point soon, like, they will absolutely institute recurring revenue. Like,
do you think because they'll have less connection to the actual potential customer versus
100%.
like,
and I think emotionally I'm too connected to customers.
Right. Right. Which makes it really challenging because you guys do care about every person that comes through and making sure that, that they're successful.
Yeah, it's always been a labor of love. Yeah. Like, I think that you ever come to one of our events, like, we have that.
So there's a lot of certifications, right, that are out there that just like somebody built this thing, right, and it kind of just lives as this kind of like side project for them. They're selling them here and there. Hey, did you always kind of have the vision from the beginning of, hey, I want to make this into an actual company, a real thing, and potentially exit from it someday, or did it just evolve into that?
No, I said on day one in Chicago, 2017, I said I'm going to sell this company one day.
Would you have built it differently if you weren't necessarily building it as kind of enterprise value?
I don't think you can. Like, I think by proxy, a certification has to be built from an enterprise standpoint for it to be successful long term. So I don't think I would have. I mean, if anything, the mistakes I made were that I didn't look from an enterprise value standpoint enough. So no, I definitely wouldn't have done it. If I would have been smarter early on, I would have been better. But no, I wouldn't have changed it.
So, and kind of every business, as it's kind of hitting these different milestones, kind of has different sets of problems, right? And so what would you say, let's call the kind of, actually, we did talk about it a little bit. The 0 to $1 million was kind of the marketing type problem where we need to figure out marketing, offer, message, and when that got figured out. So let's say from like 1 to 5, what were some of the things that started to happen in that size of the business that you're like, hey, we have to get this figured out in order to then go from 5 to 10?
I would say it's equal parts team and equal parts systems. I think a lot of times in businesses, it should be systems, but I would argue for me, it was more teams. So it was, because I've always been super lean and I've always done a lot, it was getting the right people to fulfill. And that got us to that next level. And then after that, like from $5 to $10 million, it was more systems. So typically I think it's backwards. Typically I think it's like offer, marketing, et cetera, to get to $1 million. Then I think it's systems. Then I think it's teams. For us, it was more like offer, positioning, marketing, and then it was team, and then it was systems. I needed people that I could trust that would do it with me. That I would actually trust outsourcing some things to. So like getting the right contractors in, things like that I just didn't have any experience in.
Did you bring on employees right away, or were you kind of operating via contractors and having people just kind of fill?
Ironically, like I've never outsourced for like cheap contractors ever in any of my businesses. And I know it's very vogue today. So I've always been more so on employees.
Mm-hmm. And those people typically come through your network and just kind of other people in the industry, or have you found other areas where you can find key people to come in and play big roles in the business?
I would say because we've had such an impactful community, there's always been a strong desire of our community to want to associate with the company. And so we've always been very fortunate in the sense that a lot of people that have gone through our stuff wanted to be closer to us and want to work from us. So we've always had like a really good pool of talent. Now, are you going to find your high level COO like that? No. Are you going to find your high level CMO like that? No. But it's really suitable to get you $10 million. Like, we had phenomenal people. And I'm a big believer in people over skill set. I think you can teach skill sets. We have phenomenal people that learn skill sets. You know, I think obviously the growth from 10 to 30 is completely different. You really do need skills. But that's been hard for me, man. Like at the like revenue level we're at is like, I found some very skilled people that just culturally, they weren't the right people. And so I've had a hard time blending people and skills, if I'm being honest. Like that's probably a current today.
Because is your team entirely remote, or do you guys have like a central location where a bunch of people come into work every day?
We are entirely remote.
So how do you manage? So being an entirely remote team kind of has its own set of challenges, right? How do you guys kind of build that level of culture across a team that's maybe segmented across multiple time zones, potentially even different countries?
I would tell you, I wish I had like a really good answer for you, but that's my biggest weakness.
Yeah.
Like that's easily my biggest weakness is I just put my head down and I work, and like, I'm not good at like being your cheerleader. And so like when people use the word culture, I'm like, just shut the fuck up and work. Like that's how my head works. Now that's terrible. And I've had to learn that in like the last year and a half. Like I'm telling you, it's a terrible quality, but I've had to, you know, go through those things and realize that I've had to give that to people on my team and delegate like cultural responsibilities and like almost isolate myself to where people just kind of realize that like Jason is Jason and he's not going to be part of this like team thing. Like it's like when I show up, it's like when I show up, I'm showing up with extra intent. Like when like I'm reminding myself I need to be better at this. And so it's better that it's in isolated instances so that like I'm very good at it. I tell you I'm bad at it, but my team would tell you they don't see that as much. Well, that's because I'm very careful about when I expose myself to those situations. If you ever came to a live event, you'd think I'm amazing at it. People come all the time, they're like, you're such a great leader. And I'm like, no, I suck at leadership. But that's because you only see the leadership that like we allow you to see.
Right.
Behind the scenes, and like I'm not that good at that. Like I really put more people on the front lines of it than I am. I would say Andrew Garrison's phenomenal at it. He's great at culture. He's great at teams. And so I think I just had to like swallow my pride and be like, dude, like you do that, not me.
So was that just a self-awareness that like, hey, this isn't going to be me, and I don't think I can make myself do this, be this person day in and day out, and so I need to find that person to do that?
Yeah, it's where I'm very like anti like the industry, which is like everyone's like, oh, you need to develop this. And like I'm like, if I try to fundamentally be different, I'm gonna operate differently in the important shit, right? Like just let me be me, which is like I'm kind of a dick, I'm kind of a loner. And but I'm really good at like vision and understanding where the company needs to go. And like I'm okay with that. Like when I'm in the team settings, I can drop all of that and I can instantly become better. But I don't want to have to do that every single day because it's exhausting for me. Like it takes a lot of energy for me to put that level of focus in. And so instead, I choose to be slightly removed, which a lot of companies, lower level employees, they don't touch the CEO anyway. And so, you know, but I am very careful about that. Now, like do I have like my assistant send out gift cards of acknowledgement and shit like that? Of course. But like that doesn't require any energy from me. I think I've just really learned to control like my mental energy and like how I allocate it.
Hey there, coaches! Are you ready to take your coaching game to the next level? Get ready for an unforgettable experience at the Super Coach Summit. Join us at Reston, Virginia on August 24th and 25th, where top-tier coaches from the best in the industry will converge to share insights, strategies, and inspiration. And here's the best part. Lock in your spot with our super early bird tickets. Don't miss out on this limited time offer to save big and secure your seat among coaching's elite. Connect, learn, and grow alongside the best in the industry. Get your super early bird tickets now. Visit virtual.supercoachsummit.com for more information and to secure your spot today.
So, which is interesting, right? Because you guys decided to go into the live event space and throw some pretty large events. And so was that a strategic move of, hey, we want to get in person with our people and help them in this live setting? Or was there kind of a different reason to kind of play a different game to an extent of the live events?
That's a great question. So I'll tell you, like, I mean, if I'm being very honest, like the intent is probably not what led the live event. Like the passion for community is really what led our live events. So I was at Funnel Hacking Live in 2020, and Russell Brunson always said like this event is for funnel hackers, and he's very big on like naming his community. And so I left that event and I was driving from Nashville to South Carolina, and I constantly was just like, there's an event for funnel hackers, there's an event for digital marketers, there's an event for like for strength coaches, but like there's nothing for like online coaches. And I was like, I feel like that's just not good. And at the time I was toying with the idea of like doing business development for all online coaches, not just health and fitness. And so like really turning the event for like the whole online coaching industry as a whole. But I just knew there needed to be something. And so like, if you watch like the origin story video, then, it's one of those things where that was like the story I told.
Because you launched your event in what year? You guys are on, is this the fourth year or third year?
2020, it was supposed to launch. 2021 is when it did launch. So we actually announced it in February of 2020, and then the world shut down.
Right.
And so we didn't actually end up having it until 2022.
And was that in Arizona? Was that in Scottsdale?
It was in Arizona.
Okay.
The 22 and 23 were in Arizona. This year we'll be in Orlando.
Right. And so, I mean, so your kind of thought process behind the event was really to bring this community together in person and kind of help this health and fitness online world just become better coaches and have a bigger impact.
That was honestly it. And like, I mean, obviously, do I know how to monetize from stage? Of course. But I never looked at it as like this massive, like revenue generating thing. I actually looked at it as like,
did you see it though impact? Did you see it impact though, like the certification side of things? Was that a blip when you would run these events? You'd kind of bring a bunch more people into
I
that?
definitely knew that it would bring more eyeballs.
Right.
I mean, like you can't run a live event with Ed Milet on your stage and not bring more attention to yourself. Like, so I knew that we would get more attention. I didn't understand how big it would get. If I'm being honest, I look around the industry now and I feel like everyone has a live event, which is also why this is the last coaching con ever. Because I don't do things that everyone else does. And so, yeah, like I guess I knew, but I didn't, it truly has always been like an impact thing. Like it's never been like a, now I think that you go into year one and you walk away. I think year one we made, I don't know, something like 800 grand, 900 grand. And you can't help but notice that on your P&L. Like, oh my God, in April, we made 900 grand more than we normally do.
Right.
And so obviously like you go into year two and you plan for that. I think like last year we did, 1.5 million from it, 2 million, something like that. I think we crossed 2 million. And so, it's hard not to plan for, but that was never the intent.
I mean, so with something that's successful on A, getting more eyeballs on the certification, B, driving more people to actually doing the certification. So why shut it down? I know you said it's kind of like there's so many events out there, but if the event is one of the best, why shut it down?
So when you look at impact, I think we can drive impact through different events. So just because I'm shutting this event down doesn't mean I'm getting out of the event space.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we will change how we do events.
Mm-hmm.
We 100% will change how we do events. Like that's probably the punchline is like, we're changing how we do events. I don't want to be the commodity of 1,000-person rooms anymore. Like I feel like that is becoming the commodity. And also like originally I wanted to put a stage together that you really couldn't see anywhere else. Like for us to do our first ever live event in 2022, our first one ever, we had Ed Milet, we had Billie Jean, we had Ryan Stewman, we had Alex Hormozy, we had Layla Hormozy. Like our lineup was massive. You could not see a lineup like that in 2022 anywhere else. And now I feel like you can see all those people every week. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what are we doing? And so we're just like recentering back on our community. And then when you look at the financials, I mean, 2024, it's costing me almost $1 million to put this event on. Mm-hmm. Well, I look at, okay, can I return 2.5, 3 million? Yeah, I probably will. But I think like on the back end of that, I could put $1 million into other forms of marketing that will easily return me $3 million. Mm-hmm. And so when I operate it as a business and I look at where are my investments, are they producing maximal returns? I don't think it's the maximal return anymore. I think last year was the peak, and I think this year's different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
As a gym owner, Coach Catalyst is the key to having low turnover. For several years, I struggled and spent 10 to 20 hours a week communicating with clients via phone calls, Facebook Messenger, email, and text messages. I had tried everything to make my life more efficient. I was at my wit's end. And then I found Coach Catalyst. Since starting the software, I have found a life again, and my clients are thanking me for being so involved in their fitness life. I've cut my daily commitment to interacting with over 300 clients to under 15 minutes a day and have streamlined my 6-week challenges. I couldn't recommend it more. I just don't know if I would even be here today if it wasn't for Coach Catalyst. If you don't have an account already, you're missing out and not helping the people you could be.
So what do you see then as like the next 2 years of NCI? How do you continue to innovate and how do you continue to push the envelope on this aspect of the industry?
So I think that the industry as a whole is going the wrong way. I think the industry as a whole is how can I do less with more? I mean, like how can I have more and do less? And so we're the opposite of where the industry goes. 99% of the time, we feel like the industry is going a very commodity driven way. And so we're actually trying to do more with less. And so we want to be the most price competitive. We're not going to undervalue ourselves. We're not going to be the cheapest, but we're always going to be the best value in the space. And we're going to triple down on our delivery. And so, obviously you can't find cohorts anywhere else. You can't find the support that we provide anywhere else. We brought in Alan to beef up the science side. We have on the consulting side, we've opened up access to me 24/7. I really would challenge anybody to find levels of support higher than you could find at NCI across each and every product. And I think that in a world that post-pandemic, different, reopening of the world, I still think connection is what humans desire. And I think it's the one constant in all business models forever. I think connection will always win. And so we're over-indexing on connection. And that's where we keep going. If you want to talk financial plays and shit to boost EBITDA, we could go in the weeds, but that's not very fun. So it's, obviously we're looking to exit. I've said that very openly. I've moved the consulting company out of the NCI umbrella. It's its own LLC. And so now NCI has a very fair market value, has a very fair multiple. it will trade on a significant multiple because it won't have a key man problem. And, I'll be able to exit that and it won't affect any of the consulting I do because I really do enjoy consulting. So, I think that's really the next couple of years for me, man.
I love that. And I don't think I could agree with you more about this idea of connection, right? I think that's how you win.
Like I wish more people understood it, but it's also hard work. Connection's hard work.
Takes time. It takes the long play.
I mean,
right?
you know how hard it was to do this podcast, and it's largely because I connect. Like it's like, dude, I haven't been off the phone since 7:30 this morning, and it's almost noon Pacific time. So,
well, man, this has been fun. I know you got to run here, and so we have a little kind of follow, like the ending part of the podcast is just some kind of random questions that are completely out of left field. So we'll hit those and then we'll let you get out of here. So first one, burrito, taco, or quesadilla?
Burrito every day.
Are you a volume guy? You just like, you need the amount?
I just like, maybe. I think what it is, I really like cheese. And I feel like I can dump a fuck ton of cheese in a burrito, and I can't get that much cheese on each taco. So,
all right.
Like I want to be able to taste the cheese in every bite of the burrito. So,
I like it. All right, next one. If you could spend a week in any cartoon world, what cartoon world do you choose to spend a week in?
Oh, this is where I show how boring of a human I really am. I can't tell you the last cartoon I saw.
Well, you've got small. I mean, you've got a young girl, so if we need to go modern day cartoons, you can.
Oh, I mean, dude, all I see in my house is fucking Barbie and Bluey. Like,
Bluey's not a bad choice.
I'll just embarrass myself. I kind of want to live in fucking Barbie's world because my daughter's talking about having this massive pink mansion with this pink airplane and these pink cars, and I'm like, I mean, I'll live in a big mansion and a plane. I'll give a shit if it's pink, white, black, blue. It doesn't matter to me. Like, let's just do it. So. This world that my daughter creates, like I'm here for it, man. Bring daddy along. We're good.
I love it. All right. Last one. If you had dinner with someone, past or present, who do you want to break bread with?
Oh, man. That's so hard.
If you need to, I can give you a couple if you need to throw a couple out there.
Like the one that comes to mind first is my dad. It's been almost 2 years since I lost him. And I just I hope I made him proud like the last 2 years. And I would just want to know, like, am I making him proud? Is there anything he would want to pass on to me for, the second half of my life? Like I would, I'd give anything to have another day with him. I think, I'd love to do dinner with Elon. I think like the way he sees the world is fascinating. I think right now I'm currently a bit of a man crush on Patrick Bet-David. So like that name just keeps coming to mind. Like those two like really come to mind. But those are so insignificant, really. I mean, I'll die happy not having had dinner with them.
Right.
So probably my dad. That's probably the number one that keeps coming back. But that being said, like, I've been really fortunate. I've had some dinners with some amazing people. So like I also like, a lot of my like sports idols and shit, like I probably had dinner with. So.
I love it, man. Well, if people want to learn a little bit more about NCI and where can they find you guys on the internet?
The best place right now is my Instagram, NCI_CEO_Jason. Or if you want to know more about the company, NCI certifications with an S.com. Either one. Tell me that Trevor sent you. I'll hook you up, give you a discount.
Sounds good.
I'm always here for it. So just tell me you want to come and tell me I suck and that I should give you money off. So I'm here for it.
All right, man. I love it. I appreciate you taking some time to hang out with me, man.
Dude, my pleasure, bro. Appreciate you having me.
Thanks so much for listening to another episode of the Coach Catalyst podcast. If you are a coach looking to do more for your clients than just workouts, give Coach Catalyst a test drive. Try it for 14 days. Jump on call with your personal strategy coach, Ashley, and see how easy technology can be, all for free. Tell them Trevor sent you. Until next time, keep changing lives.